What's up? My name is Felix Gilbert. I'm the president and founder of XCell. We are a digital service company here in Baltimore, Maryland. And hey, welcome to our office. So, how do you align multiple product teams under a singular vision? Let's talk about it, right? So, our team served as a part of the MacBiz Human-Centered Design Unification team. It says a lot. I know it's a very long word, but in summary, all we were doing was we were here to help serve the design community so that everything looked and felt the same. And that when we were talking about research, everybody understood what we were talking about. When we talked about human-centered design or development or the various tools or ways of going about human-centered design and development, everybody knew what we were talking about. So the challenge we found early on was, hey, we've got multiple product teams at varying levels. How do you get everybody under the same vision, right? You've got some product teams that were early on where they were just early in their research and development saying, hey, I feel like this is what our product is about to be. You've got other teams that were a little bit more, they were kind of in the middle spot where they were about to launch their product, but they were just working on new features. Then you had other teams that were very well mature. They were well-oiled machines. They already had a product that was live in the streets. They were already working on future development features, had a really well laid out roadmap. How do you get everybody to say, hey, pause, that's great, everything you're doing. We're not all going towards the same vision, right? How do you get everybody aligned? So within MacBiz, it's a part of the Center for Medicaid and Medicare. So what we ended up doing was we began doing user research and we met with every single product team. We met with their stakeholders. In some cases, we also met with their users, right? Just to understand, hey, what are the needs for each of these products? What do you all do? Are there interactions? Are there collaborations within these products together, right? And how might we help this community? Well, early on through that research, what we ended up discovering was that there was a strong need for a design system, because what was going on was every single product team was building out their own component, right? So for example, if somebody needed a messaging component for theirs so that they could interact and send messages back and forth, Team A would build it. But then what would happen is over time, Team C would conduct their research and they would say, hey, you know what? We need a way for users to talk back and forth with each other. Let's build a messaging component. Not realizing that Team A built one already, right? So there was a lack of communication and collaboration back and forth. Thus, both teams were building out the exact same thing, not realizing, hey, we're at risk of helping the client losing time, losing money, losing resources because you're building the exact same thing for your product, though needed. But if we get everybody under the same roof talking together, hey, we could just fork that component on over, bring it into our application, and boom, we save time. We got this thing out the door faster, and we also saved our client money and resources. So that's one of the reasons why we leaned in and said, okay, hey, let's build out this design system. So early on, what we ended up doing was two of those product teams actually reached out to us because they were doing some collaboration, kind of in like the guerrilla marketing type way. Early on, they were saying, okay, hey, I built this new feature, and they were sharing Figma files back and forth through Slack. So they would just physically, hey, here's my product, boom, and they would share it back and forth. But there were multiple challenges because the second somebody made a small tweak to that feature, all of a sudden that other team was now out of alignment. So what we ended up doing holistically was not only did we get everybody aligned with the Figma organizational package, but we also said, hey, let's begin to start sharing out files. Let's start sharing out resources. And when we began building out the design system, we were looking for ways that we can enhance and influence communication and collaboration across the entire organization. So what we ended up doing was, as we were doing our research, we built out influencer maps, we ran surveys, we ran all kind of exercises just to really truly understand where our ecosystem and all of our product teams, where they are today, and what's the real status versus just, hey, this is what I do, and I say this is a thing I do, but I really am not doing said thing. So as we built that out and we got a really clear vision of where our community was, we said, okay, hey, how might we build a small component that will help bring and influence collaboration and alignment immediately? What we ended up doing was we said, okay, since we are also kind of a sub-base of the US Web Design Standards, we said, hey, let's use the little USA banner, right? It's a small enough component that every single product team is going to need it. And it also does not impact their development or their pipeline or their sprints, etc. So we designed it, we built it, and we talked with every single product team to say, hey, here's a thing, right? And we said, ta-da, we got this little tiny macro thing that you can add to your website that's gonna bring alignment, right? All of a sudden, every product team started looking into it and said, okay, hey, I see a need. Hey, actually, yeah, this actually is gonna help us bring alignment holistically. Even from the stakeholder point of view, they were able to see, yeah, by adding this little piece of tech, this little component, all of a sudden now I've got unification. All my products are slowly beginning to look and feel the same. So it's kind of like this. I'll kind of back up. It's kind of like the Chick-fil-A or like a fast food, or maybe, you know, I'll use McDonald's. McDonald's don't come after your boy, right? But it's kind of like this, right? You go to one McDonald's, and every single McDonald's you visit, you get a different experience, right? Let's say you order your food, you get to the window and you ask for ketchup because you're like, you know what, I need ketchup for my fries. One McDonald's hands it to you. The other one tells you, that'll be 35 cents. 35 cents for a pack of ketchup, and they hand you one. But you just order 4 fries, right? For 4 different people, right? It's not enough. And they're trying to charge you. It's a different experience. And or you say, hey, somebody asked for barbecue sauce. That's another 35 cents for everything. For the end user, you end up frustrated because you're like, I just paid you. Matter of fact, for my family, I just spent $40, $50 to feed my whole family, and I gotta pay you 35 cents for barbecue sauce? Or you're only giving me 2 packs of ketchup? Or in some cases, now you ran out of napkins? That's a frustrating experience for your user, right? And it's not unified, right? So that's why we built the design system, so that we can almost think of it like a Chick-fil-A concept. Every single Chick-fil-A you go to, you know, guaranteed, when you roll up to that window or you walk up to the counter, somebody's gonna say, how may I serve you today? It's unification and alignment so that the customer experience is the same throughout. That's what we were doing through a digital product, right? So as we began to build out the design system, we first started small. Then we said, okay, hey, let's break this out. Let's add more components, right? So then we began to build out other buttons, modals, UI components, right? And we were heavy on using all the latest and greatest for Figma, so that as even beta features were coming out of Figma, everybody was able to leverage all the tools, and designers were able to rapidly build and redesign their prototypes, right? And even their features or components, which ended up being an amazing feature because we broke it all out. And in our roadmap, we said, okay, hey, phase 1, let's get phase 1 out. We're gonna build out these components, right? And though obviously many of our developers and our designers were like, hey, I need X, Y, Z. In all honesty, we weren't there yet because we had to build the foundation. We needed to make sure that the foundation was solid before we moved on to other features, right? So as we began to build this out and just build out this proof of concept and just say, hey, we've got a little proof of concept. Does this work? Yes, no, right? We began to work and collaborate with our stakeholders, with other users, just to say, okay, hey, holistically, here it is. Test it, right? And we got feedback, we made enhancements, and what we ended up doing was we realized, okay, once we got into the development side, one of the biggest challenges there was no uniformity in the technology that teams were using. Some teams were using React, other teams were using Angular, some teams were already using Vue. Other teams were using like Bootstrap and Material or a hodgepodge of other technologies, which really for the developer side said, oh man, this is really about to be a big challenge, because how can we get everybody aligned when we're not using the same technology? So the way we approached that was we said, okay, let's build a tech stack agnostic design system. So we use Stencil.js as well as Storybook to help build out the development of each component as well as the documentation side of the design system. And then we began to ship that out to teams, which ended up working holistically, because then that way, as we built out these components and shipped and launched them, the product teams can then turn around and say, okay, hey, I'm ready to pull in this component. And in their own roadmap and in their own way, they had the autonomy to begin slowly bringing and introducing in many of these components. Now, at the end of the day, we got to a spot where not everybody was using it, right? Like design systems and change is difficult, right? Not everybody ended up using it at the end of the day. However, the win is that we did get a product team that was saying, hey, we're gonna use this as our way to help influence change, right? They were one of the big teams that was going through already. They were already going through changes. They adopted our design system, In fact, they ended up taking it on and saying, hey, we're going to take this model and begin to build out even further, which was a win for us, because at the end of the day, though we were building out a prototype, all of a sudden now we've got one of the larger teams within our ecosystem using our design system, which was a win, which showed that, hey, there is a need. And at the end of the day, we're helping all of our product teams align to a singular vision for our client, which was the MacBiz community, right? So at the end of the day, though it's hard, I just wanted to share that brief little behind the scenes just to help influence change. So at the end of the day, look, if you are looking at, hey, how might we get alignment, right? Or you're looking at your product suite and you're like, okay, this is a hot mess. Everybody is everywhere. How do we get everybody under the same roof? Hit us up, reach out to us. We would love to come and talk further about how we might potentially bring a design system or other tools to look at the maturity of your community, of your human-centered design community or product suite, and how we might build it out for you as well.